And we're back in the studios here in our little interview section, and I'm pleased to welcome Notre Dame's Vice President and CIO, Chief Investment Officer, Scott Malpass. And Scott, thanks very much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Great to be here.
I understand you were recruited to play football, but not by Notre Dame.
Well, I was. I played high school football, and actually Jackie Sherrill at Pitt and Joe Paterno at Penn State called on me at Erie McDowell. But they liked my film, and then they saw me. They thought, well, maybe he's not quite big enough for us, so I came to Notre Dame instead.
Well, what brought you to Notre Dame, if not football? As you say, Notre Dame didn't recruit you for that, so what was it?
You know, I had a family member graduate in the 70s, and I was about 12 years old. And when you see this campus, the Sacramento vision of it, you know, it just looks like a place you want to go to college. Yeah. And I had a chance during my uncle's commencement to tour the campus, and I got hooked immediately. And so for many years, I wanted to come back and go to school here.
Sure.
So I was fortunate to be able to do that.
What hall did you live in?
I lived in Flanner Hall.
Flanner?
Coached the inter-hall football team. Was co-athletic commissioner of the dorm with my roommate, Mike Donovan, who also works at Notre Dame in our office. Yeah. So we're very fortunate.
So you actually got to play football in pads anyway?
I did. Yeah. I did.
Yeah. It's now, Flanner is what Father Michelli over at Kavanaugh, where I lived, used to call the heathen towers. You know, just because they were so new and so different, and they actually had elevators and things like that. But anyway, you survived that.
We survived it. We had a great dorm spirit. We had great rectors, and we had a wonderful time. I lived there 4 years.
Yep. And you've gone on now, of course, you're Chief Investment Officer for Notre Dame. So let's talk about that a little bit. Notre Dame has done very, very well in its investments over the last, say, 20 years or so. And in that period, there have been a couple of really horrible bear markets. There was a dot-com bust back in 1999. There was the financial crisis and the subprime mortgage crisis in 2008. A lot of colleges with large endowments lost an awful lot of money. Notre Dame lost some, but you actually came out of it in fairly good shape. So tell me how you did that.
Well, I'm very proud of our team, our investment committee of our board that Jay Jordan chairs, has chaired for 20 years. Great advisors and guidance. You know, we have great partners. We don't stretch. We don't over leverage. You know, very fundamental value investors. So, you know, in that kind of market, everybody's going to get hit. But our partners did a fabulous job, and we were able to continue to spend from the endowment at the levels we were pre-crisis. Didn't have to cut faculty and staff or programs. So, you know, it was a tough period. But you're right. There have been crises. Every few years there's a crisis in the markets. That was a particularly big one.
It was.
But we know in the 90s there were emerging markets crises. You mentioned the tech bubble. That was obviously very difficult. That was very sector specific, but very difficult. But there's always going to be something that you have to worry about in investing.
Sure. And, you know, for everybody out there, there's always that old mantra that you just got to be in it, leave it, don't look at it, just stay with it and never change it. But, you know, you've done some things to really sort of protect yourself and protect the university from these kinds of things. And so do you take a purely bottom-up, just looking at specific companies, or do you look from the top down and say, hey, there's a problem out there in the bigger economy? Well,
we look at both. We are more bottom-up, though. And we're just fortunate we get to partner with the very best minds in the world who manage money. You know, we have over 100 investment partners. We have a long time horizon, which is a real advantage. So we can lock up some of our capital and funds, like in venture capital or private equity or real estate, where you can get a premium over the market. We don't need to spend the whole fund every year, so we can put some of it away over 10, 20 years.
So you're in a little better position than most investors that are out there.
We don't have to be quite as liquid as most investors.
So which is more important, Scott, not losing money or making money?
Well, they're both important, and you have to have balance. You know, if there's one thing that I tell investors is be diversified, have balance, and you'll do as well as anybody as long as you don't market time and stick with it, you know. It's sad sometimes you see people go out of the market right at the bottom and come back in right at the top, and you know, the individuals do that a lot with their money, and I'm trying to always educate people not to do that.
It's the old buy high, sell low. That's the big problem.
Exactly.
Right? You want to do it the other way around. But you almost have to be inverse emotional to do that. So when things are flying high and the market's up,
no, that's right. No, when things are down, people are afraid to buy, but that's when you have to buy. And so you have to be a bit of a contrarian. You have to look at valuation and buy when they're down. That's hard sometimes for people to do. And I think we do that pretty well. We have great partners who help us do that. They're often calling capital right after a big collapse, so they can buy lower. And that's a great discipline. We're very disciplined how we manage the money.
Tell me about the Notre Dame endowment now. Is it in good shape? How large is it? Does it have to be bigger? Where do we stand right now?
It's in great shape. We're about $9.2 billion in our endowment pool.
How does that compare with other?
The 12th largest endowment in the country, largest at a Catholic university. There are actually over 5,000 endowments in the pool. We manage it as one pool, but they support financial aid and our talented faculty, endowed professorships, student life. Really all aspects of campus are funded by endowments. It's about 30% of the operating budget, endowment spending.
Well, you've done a terrific job. I mean, you've become sort of this almost legendary status, and I say you collectively, you and your staff have done such a fine job of being stewards of the university's finances. I know that we really appreciate it. I speak on behalf of a lot of alums who are out there who really appreciate the job that you've done. My producer, though, has written in a little question here at the bottom of the sheet that says, can you give me a stock tip?
Well, I don't give stock tips. That's dangerous. But stay in it for the long term.
Okay.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Be in it to win it, right?
That's exactly. Right. Thanks, Gary.
Scott, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Done a great job.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. And we're going to change